There was a time when manufacturers used to make cars and then make its battery-powered versions. Now Tata was the same, but times have changed and now they do the opposite. So let us see how that has panned out. Welcome to Car and Bike. My name is Girish Karkera and these here are the all-new diesel and petrol-powered Tata Curvv. Now, very basis of the car is very different between the petrol and diesel versions of the Curvv as well as the electric version. While the electric version is based on the active.ev platform, this one is based on Atlas, which is adaptive, tech-forward lifestyle architecture. Now, more or less, the platforms could be similar, but the base is the only thing that is common between the two. The overall outer shell is different and has been specifically designed for the diesel and petrol powered version. In the electric, the battery helps with the overall rigidity of the chassis, but in this, special bolstering was required. Now the Atlas uses very high-tech materials, including different kinds of steel, and the platform is made with a combination of high-strength steel as well as advanced high-strength steel. So although the platforms are different to a certain extent, the overall size of the petrol or the diesel version of the Curvv is very similar to the electric version. So in terms of overall length and width, it's pretty similar, including the wheelbase. There is a slight change in the overall height of the car, which includes the ground clearance, which is slightly more with the petrol and diesel version. So a lot of changes with the design, and you can notice them if you park the cars side by side. The main difference, of course, is with the face of the car. If you look at this car, it has a very different front grille. It's an almost functional grille, unlike the electric version. And you can see sequential DRLs as well as automatic headlamps. Now the front looks very similar to, as you can see on the bigger Harrier SUV. It's something that reminds you of the Harrier SUV. If you come to the rear of the car, again, you have sequential turn indicators, plus there is an LED light bar running across it. It looks pretty neat. From a distance, the coupe is almost not noticeable and you'd probably feel that this is some big hatch. But of course, it's when you come to the side is when you realize the coupe design of this car. It looks butch, it looks handsome. The wheelbase, as I mentioned, is more or less the same. This one has 18-inch wheels, which are alloy, along with aero inserts for better airflow. This is only with the top variant, and the lower one will have 17-inch wheels. Another interesting add-on feature, which you notice on the side, of course, are the flush door handles, which you have to operate with the thumb. We've seen this in a lot of modern cars, and of course, dual-tone exterior colors. Now, there are 6 exterior colors to choose from, and apart from this, there is also the choice of different personas or variants, 4 of which one is different, that is not seen on the electric version. Now, within the personas also, there are a lot of options. In fact, there are a total of 33 variants that are possible with the Tata Curvv, and all of these can be found on the carandbike.com website if you want to have more details on them. When you enter the Curvv, you realize how similar it is to the Nexon EV. The differences probably with the colors or the finishing, like the upholstery color is very different. Some of the panels on the dashboard are different, but overall layout is pretty similar. Example, the steering wheel, again with the central light bar and those capacitive buttons. The touchscreen cockpit is very, very similar, including the control panels with the piano black finish and these seemingly tough to access charging ports for both USB as well as your phone. It gets very similar controls for drive modes and electronic parking brake along with auto hold for the top version. The lower versions get a mechanical handbrake. But one major change are the keys. Very different. This gets button start, of course. This is the manual version, so you need to press the clutch. And the all-new Hyperion engine comes into life. Very similar graphic like you get in all the other Tata cars. It's a bit nerdy, but I think it is very useful in terms of whatever information it provides. The air conditioning in the front is pretty good. You can control them via the capacitive buttons again. Now, I'm not a big fan of these capacitive buttons, especially when you're driving the car. They're not very intuitive, but looks like, at least for the current generation of Tata cars, this is going to stay. Now, in terms of utility, very similar to the Nexon. You get bottle holders in both the doors. You get a 10-liter glove box, an armrest with a smallish storage area. There is wireless charger in the top model. Apart from this, there is also the 500-liter boot which is the biggest change and the biggest plus above the Nexon for the Curvv. From a driver's perspective, one of the most handiest features, especially when you're parked in tight spaces, is the 360-degree camera. And the clarity and the accuracy is pretty spot on. From the mirror side, both the door mirrors are pretty large and easy to view. While you get an inside rear view mirror as well, the view is sort of spoiled because of the coupe hatch. The glass area is pretty narrow. Now, the most important place in the car for a lot of families is the rear seat, and importantly talk about the Curvv, which is an SUV coupe. So the roof is sloping, headroom is a little bit more compromised than in the Nexon EV, but the seat in itself, it's quite plush and there is enough under thigh support. In terms of legroom, again, it looks like it's a little bit more compromised than the Nexon EV. It just about fits right for me. I am 5'8". Taller passengers may have a problem. The seat is pretty comfortable, comes with the usual array of functions such as center armrest with the cup holders. Also, you can recline the seat if you want. In terms of passive safety features, well, it comes with 6 airbags, also 3-point seat belts at the rear. What else do rear passengers get? Well, creature comforts. There are AC vents at the rear, no controls though, but there is a Type-C and USB charging port. More importantly, there is a panoramic sunroof for some of the higher variants of the Curvv, as well as JBL sound system, which is really top class. So when you enter the car, it does feel familiar to the Nexon. The way the layout is, the way the steering wheel is. But once it starts moving is when you notice the differences that the Curvv has to the Nexon. First thing, since this is based on an all-new platform, I find it a bit more cohesive than the Nexon in terms of how the car wraps around you. In terms of powertrain, there are 3 engine options, 1 diesel, 2 petrol, and the extra petrol, or the new petrol in this, is this 1.2-litre Hyperion engine. It makes 123 bhp of power and 225 Newton meters of torque. Now, the torque value is substantially more than the 1.2 Revotron petrol engine, which is the other petrol engine option in the Curvv. Even peak power comes in at a lower RPM than the Revotron. Torque spread, however, is a little bit narrower than the Revotrons. While it will not make much of a difference in the overall drive experience, I feel, immediately this engine feels very punchy, very torquey. Once the torque sets in, then it is easy going. You just need to floor the throttle. Yes, at very low RPM, you do need to downshift it. This Hyperion engine has the distinction of being the first made in India gasoline direct injection, GDI, as you may have commonly heard with other brands as well. As with the other powertrains, this too can be mated to either a 6-speed manual, which I'm driving right now, or a 7-speed dual clutch automatic. Now, this manual is a bit notchy at times, especially in, say, first or second gear. At other speeds, the throws feel much crisper. The throws are long, it's not exactly sporty, and probably could have been better for an engine like this GDI. Apart from being powerful, this is also supposedly more efficient. Now, we've yet to put it through the test cycle that we usually do at carandbike, but on the onboard computer is currently showing us a fuel efficiency of 10, and we've been driving it majorly in the city, in traffic, twisty windy roads around here in Goa.
The diesel engine is noisier in comparison, but supplies enough torque for quick getaways, making city driving quite hassle-free. The dual clutch transmission is a bit twitchy at low speeds, unlike a torque converter automatic, but give it an open stretch and it utilizes the torque at its disposal quite cleverly. It can get a little noisy, but vibrations are well controlled. Unlike early dual clutch transmissions that were prone to overheating in dusty Indian conditions, this one has a wet clutch with active cooling and a self-healing system that pushes out dirt which could potentially harm its functioning. It has an e-shifter similar to the ones on other Tata cars, including its EVs, but it also has paddle shifters which come in handy.
Now, just like in the Nexon, the steering wheel of the Curvv is pretty similar. It's the same design layout with a light bar in the center. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the steering wheel because I feel it's a size too big and it's a little difficult to hold with the kind of design they've done. Probably it would have been better if they've gone with a conventional 3-spoke design. It is just easier to grip, and if you want to do quick maneuvers or turnarounds around fast corners, it just makes it easier. In terms of feedback, well, there is not a lot of it, but it's not entirely dead. It is able to kind of keep you engaged and you're totally not at sea with it. Compared to the Nexon, the Curvv definitely is much more enjoyable to drive. Well, I wouldn't say it is the benchmark when it comes to handling, but it is a fun car in a different way. In a straight line, it feels quite stable, the ride is supple, and it feels much more planted than the SUV version. When you throw it around corners, there is body roll, but you can definitely control it. One unique feature in this Hyperion engine is the torque boost that you can get. If you're driving at a certain speed and you're above the second gear, and the accelerator can be floored to around 60%, approximately 60%, then you can get an additional torque boost of around 25 Newton meters. You can actually feel it the way the torque builds up, and this is especially useful while overtaking. It's the feature that you will get in the Hyperion. It also helps with sort of giving it some sort of sportiness. In a world obsessed with SUVs, an SUV coupe seems like a breath of fresh air. Just like its name suggests, it's not a straight line approach to the world of SUVs, a slightly more premium, a slightly more lifestyle kind of vehicle. It has a little bit of compromises when it comes to rear seat space. However, it tries to make up for that with a larger boot. Now, it has competition which is much more affordable, so you wonder why bother with the Tata Curvv. Well, it's a slightly different proposition. It's placed slightly higher than the competition, and it affords a slightly more premium lifestyle, which maybe a lot of Indian customers would want from their car, especially if someone is upgrading from the smaller compact SUVs or even the smaller sedans. Now, the Curvv comes with all sorts of powertrain options. We've seen the EV, now we've also seen the petrol and the diesel version, plus the gearbox options both with manual and automatic on both the powertrains, plus the automatic and manual gearbox versions on all three powertrains. They're not flawless, they have their own quirks, but some of them work really well. What I would think is the petrol automatic would probably make a lot more sense for a car positioned like the Curvv is, a more lifestyle, a more fun vehicle. If you've liked the video, do share it with family and friends, and if you haven't subscribed to Carandbike, do subscribe to our Carandbike channel, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of the cool content from the world of Carandbike.